Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back with another video from Too Spooky, and today I'm quite interested in this one. Did Kakashi actually know 1,000 jutsus? So I think what he's going to do is he's going to go through the whole series, pointing out every jutsu that Kakashi has used to see if it's anywhere close. I don't think it will be, but at the same time, I don't think it necessarily means he didn't know 1,000 if he didn't use them. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't necessarily have to pull out every single jutsu he knows in existence. But yeah, it could even be things that he mentioned. So this could be a good one. And make sure you check out my Etsy shop. Links in the description. T-shirts and hoodies that I've designed are there to be purchased. And my Patreon link is there as well. $1 more gets your name at the end of every video I upload.
How's it going, everybody?
Too spooky here.
The other day, I was reflecting on Naruto for whatever reason. And during my disassociation, I remembered that Kakashi was not only known as the copy ninja, Kakashi of the Sharingan, but he was also known as the man who copied 1,000 jutsu.
The one who is said to have copied. Right, it said to have copied. So it doesn't say he copied it, but yeah, okay.
And I got to thinking, did Kakashi actually know 1,000 jutsu, or is he just gaslighting us with his reputation? Because from what I remember, Kakashi hadn't used even close to that many jutsu within the anime and manga. In fact, from what I could recall, he mostly just spammed Lightning Blade and Kamui after a certain point. So with that thought in mind, I decided to reread the entire manga over the course of a week, while carefully
I want to reread. I think I will reread the Naruto manga, man. It's such a good read. Like, I think I've read it like 3 times. I don't go back to stuff that I've done a lot. What's he put here? Kakashi uses Genjutsu without Sharingan? Question mark. Naruto drinks milk, but where are the cows? Alright, I'm glad I paused there.
documenting every jutsu Kakashi used to see just how many jutsu he's actually demonstrated, to confirm if it's anywhere close to 1,000. So without further ado, here is every jutsu Kakashi has used in Naruto and Naruto Shippuden in order of their appearance.
Sick, this is gonna be cool.
The very first jutsu Kakashi used was the infamous 1,000 Years of Death, which is basically where Kakashi shoves 4 fingers up someone's booty with brute force, and sends them flying as a result.
1,000 Years of Death!
The winner is...
Kakashi!
I don't have anything clever to add. It is what it is.
That's cool.
I just hope this dude washed his hands afterwards.
Hey. Oh.
The second jutsu was the substitution jutsu, one of the most common jutsu presented from many different characters throughout the
it gets
entire
used
series,
a lot, doesn't
where
it?
the user of said jutsu basically replaces themselves with a different object the moment before they are struck with an attack. Most commonly used with objects like tree logs, but it can be pretty much anything. This then allows the user to attempt an escape or counterattack before their opponent realizes they actually struck something other than their target. The third was the Shadow Clone Jutsu, another one of the most common jutsu presented from many different characters throughout the entire series. The Shadow Clone Jutsu is basically where the user splits their chakra in half to create an identical clone of themselves, made up entirely of that split chakra but in a solid physical form. The user can also create more than one clone, but doing so continues to split the chakra even further in half.
Yeah, you gotta have a big chakra like reserved to be able to do it as well. So why Naruto's able to like just spam it like crazy,
making the clones weaker with each new addition as a result. Because most ninja aren't capable of dividing their chakra that much, most ninjas stick to just 1 or 2 clones. These clones are real physical copies of the user as well, and generally disperse after taking a certain amount of damage. It's also been shown that some clones can take physical damage without disappearing immediately, further creating the illusion that they were indeed the original body. There are many other factors, such as the clones acting independently, sharing memories upon dispersing, and so on. But the basic concept is creating a clone or clones of the user that...
Yeah, it's how Naruto speeded up his Sage Mode training, wasn't it? Just splitting up into different clones, and yeah.
Can also use all the same techniques,
Isn't
or
it?
pose as a
Something else?
stand-in for the original person. The next jutsu is one that wasn't named in the manga, but in the anime it was dubbed Demonic Illusion Hell Viewing Technique, which is a genjutsu that basically puts its target in an illusion that shows them their greatest fear.
That's great. Brilliant. Absolutely
It's
brilliant.
kind of sad that this jutsu and genjutsu in general was barely ever utilized again after this one instance in the
Yeah.
beginning of the manga, aside from its much stronger counterpart, Tsukiyomi. The next jutsu was Earth Style, Groundhog Technique Decapitation, or Earth Style Headhunter Jutsu, which is where the user remains hiding underneath the
And it
ground
just pulls
before
them and
reaching
gets them
up,
stuck,
grabbing
yeah.
their target above ground, and pulling them underneath until only their head is visible on the surface, trapping them in the process. A little fun fact would be that according to one of the data books, this technique is most commonly used to torture or decapitate victims after trapping them, which is how it gets
Makes
its
sense.
name.
Yeah, yeah.
This jutsu also technically uses Earth-style hiding like a mole jutsu, which is the parent jutsu to hide and move underneath the ground. But that technique wasn't named until much later in the manga. The next jutsu was the Water Clone Jutsu, which is basically the same concept as the Shadow Clone.
But it
However,
uses
the user
water.
instead creates these clones with nearby bodies of water, although advanced users can create the water themselves too. Because they aren't purely made up of chakra, they are much more durable, although it's been stated that these clones are about 1/10 the strength of the user themselves. Rather than disappearing when they are defeated, they simply turn back into a puddle of water. The next jutsu was Water Style, Water Dragon Missile, or just Water Style, Water Dragon Jutsu, which is where the user manipulates water into the shape of a dragon
Mate, Kakashi against Zabuza at the start was so sick.
before sending it crashing into their target for a great deal of physical damage. The average user requires an existing body of water to create this dragon, but more experienced users can create the water from their own bodies or even straight up regurgitate the dragon from their mouth.
Whoa.
Next up is Water Style Giant Waterfall, which is where the user manipulates a great deal of water high into the air, which falls down with great force in the form of a waterfall, which is powerful enough to both wash anything in the environment away and create craters in the ground. Similar to other water-style jutsu, this is predominantly done from an existing body of water. However, experienced users can create the water themselves and even shoot this massive waterfall out of their mouth. Giant Waterfall in particular is noted to take an immense amount of chakra to use. The next jutsu was Chakra Feet,
Chakra
which is
Feet.
technically just basic chakra control,
Yeah, but it's still
I
a
figured I'd
jutsu.
include it anyway for the meme.
Yeah.
Next up was
So
Summoning
I can
Jutsu,
walk on
along with
trees.
Earth-style Fanged Pursuit Jutsu, which is a bit of a weird concoction so early on in the series. We'll get to why in a minute, but this jutsu basically consists of Kakashi summoning 9 ninken, or ninja dogs,
That's so
underneath the
cool,
ground,
but he doesn't
where
do
they
this
can
very
travel
often, so-
underneath the ground towards a specific
Does a lot of
target.
stuff.
This was used because the ninja dogs have a vastly superior sense of smell, and can help locate a target that would otherwise not be found easily. Once the ninja dogs find said target while underneath the ground, they will all converge together, leap out of the ground, bite the target, and hold them in place, then relaying their
So
location
brutal.
to the caster, allowing them to come finish off said target, or allow the ninja dogs to finish them instead. As we know from later on in the series, these summoning techniques can't be used without creating a contract with the summoned animal or creature. Thus, a scroll is generally only signed once, and the user can summon their contracted animal or creature with just a bit of blood from the hand they signed the contract with. However, in this instance, Kakashi is seen using a scroll to summon the ninja dogs, and once Haku damaged that scroll, all of the ninja
They
dogs
disappeared, yeah.
disappeared prematurely. So by the looks of it, scrolls were required to use the summoning jutsu in general when the series was first beginning, but the scroll was no longer needed later on in the series, especially considering Kakashi is seen able to summon these ninja dogs without a scroll later on. Next up was Kakashi's signature and most used jutsu, Chidori or
The
Lightning
lightning
Blade,
blade.
which
Chidori,
is
man.
basically where the user
Thousand
concentrates a
crows.
great deal of lightning chakra into their hand, where the user then travels at a great speed toward their target, before thrusting their hand through their intended target with great speed and force, dealing very fatal damage. It's been noted that this jutsu is quite hard to use without help from ocular Kekkei Genkai like the Sharingan for instance, because when traveling at that great speed, it creates a tunnel vision that makes it hard to accurately hit their intended target. But with the help from something like the Sharingan,
Sharingan.
it allows the user
How
to
handy.
accurately hit their targets without the blurred vision. This jutsu was named Chidori because of the chirping sound that the lightning chakra creates, but it was later dubbed Lightning Blade because Kakashi once used this jutsu to cut through a lightning bolt.
How sick is that? Like, We'll rename it. It did something absolutely epic. It needs to be named after that now. Forget the last name. That was really cool.
There's been some arguments made as to whether or not Chidori and Lightning Blade are actually different jutsu, but as far as most people can tell,
They seem
they
very
are
similar.
the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Next up was the Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu, which is basically just the regular Shadow Clone Jutsu, except the number of clones are anywhere from about 5 to literally hundreds.
Mate.
Because making more than a small handful of clones requires immense chakra usage, most shinobi are unable to use it, and because it can be dangerous to attempt, the first Hokage sealed it away as a forbidden jutsu within the Scroll of Seals.
Makes sense.
That said, fundamentally speaking, it shouldn't even matter if it's forbidden or sealed away within a scroll, because pretty much any ninja with an immense amount of chakra would be able to use this jutsu without even knowing it exists. That said, another interesting tidbit about Kakashi using this jutsu in particular would be the fact that he mentioned he was pretty much all out of chakra when he used this jutsu in the first place, and with the immense chakra usage it takes to pull this jutsu off, it's surprising that Kakashi was able to use it at all. Next up was the Curse Sealing Jutsu, which was used to basically seal the curse mark and stop it from spreading. This jutsu requires a great deal of prep time, as the user needs to write a
you can
ton
see
of
how
different
much
text
is written
on the
down
surrounding
all over
walls
him and on the floor,
ground
yeah,
with
yeah.
their own blood, leading up to the curse mark. The sad part is, even with all that prep time required, this seal only really works if the individual with the curse mark wants it to, as they can still give in to the curse mark's temptations and let it spread
damn it, Sasuke.
regardless.
Kakashi
So
prepped
this is
so much
mainly
for that.
just a way to give the curse mark recipient the ability to decide for themselves if they want it to spread, rather than the curse mark spreading
Taking
on
over
its
on
own.
its own, right.
Next up was Genjutsu Release, which is basically the technique individuals can use to release themselves or
Oh,
others
genjutsu,
from
yeah.
genjutsu,
It's in the name.
unless the genjutsu in question is so powerful that
Oh,
the user is
yeah.
unable to do so. Next up was Water Style Water Shark Bomb Jutsu, which is basically where the user manipulates water and transforms it into a shark, which, similar to Water Dragon Jutsu, is able to gain momentum and slam into an opponent, which creates a great impact. Like the others, this can obviously be done with existing water or water that is created by the user. Additionally, more skilled users can travel within the water shark to increase their own speed. Next up was Water Style Water Wall, which is where the user manipulates the water upward to create a giant wall of clear water,
barrier.
the size and duration of which is solely dependent on the amount of chakra the user can put into it, which is generally used to separate or hold off enemies. Next up was Area Scanning Jutsu, which is
Area
where the
Scanning
user places
Jutsu.
their hand on a surface and feeds it with their chakra, allowing the user to check for traps, check for any individuals present, and overview the layout of the surrounding area. Next up was White Light Blade, which is where Kakashi uses a slashing technique that utilizes the white light chakra saber that his father passed down to him. When he uses this technique, a white hue of chakra coats the blade as he swings, insinuating it has added cutting power. Next up was Earth Style Ripping
Drill Fang.
which
That
is where
sounds
the
so
user
sick.
hides underneath the earth before launching out with an uppercut in an attempted surprise attack. Next up was Kakashi's other most used jutsu, Kamui.
Yo.
There is quite a bit to explain about Kamui, considering each of Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan eyes are able to use this jutsu to a different degree. But considering Kakashi only had access to Obito's left eye for the majority of the series, we're mainly going to focus on that in a simplified manner.
Cool.
But for context on both, Kamui in general allows the user to transport objects, people, and themselves into another dimension. That dimension is seemingly only accessible to Kamui users,
So,
anything
just
or anyone
those two,
sent there
yes.
is essentially stuck there permanently, unless they can use Kamui themselves or the Kamui user lets them out. The right eye allowed the user to basically suck their own body into that dimension, or allow selected parts of their body to pass into that dimension at
So they
will,
can, yeah,
along with suck
pass through
anything
everything,
or
yeah.
anyone in their direct vicinity into the dimension as well. Although when sucking things inside the dimension, it was noted to take extra time to do so. With the left eye that Kakashi possessed, he was instead able to use this dimension transportation technique at long range on a specific target, meaning he could, for instance, look directly at a kunai knife being thrown at a distance and transport that kunai to the other dimension just by looking at it. Kakashi initially
wasn't
struggled
as easy
with
as that,
this
though,
and
was it?
a bit
But, yeah.
inaccurate, until he eventually got a grasp on how to use it more effectively and more often, although his eyesight obviously
So
got worse
draining,
and
yeah.
worse in general over time. While Kakashi only possessed both eyes for a very limited time, this also allowed
Wait,
him
he
to
was
use
so
other exclusive jutsu,
OP. So freaking OP at this moment. He was the most powerful person in Naruto. He was the most powerful character in Naruto at this point.
which we'll touch upon later. But with possession of both eyes, it's
Oh.
also been noted that the teleportation time of Kamui is twice as fast, and they can now create portals. Next up is another one of the most recognizable jutsu, the Rasengan,
Hell
which is a
yeah.
technique where the user basically uses advanced chakra control to create a spinning ball of condensed chakra within the user's palm, before thrusting that condensed chakra into the user's target, where it unravels and bursts to deal a considerable amount of damage. Many variations of the Rasengan exist.
sure.
Kakashi only demonstrated the base version, so that's where we're going to leave it. Next up is Earth Style Mud Wall. This ability is used by placing the user's hands on existing ground and creating
dogs.
a protective barrier out of the earth in the form of a wall for various applications like blocking an attack or attempting to trap someone from escaping. These walls are generally featureless. However, Kakashi in particular molds his to feature the faces of bulldogs on the side. Additionally,
Why
in the
not?
novel Kakashi Retsuden, it's noted that Kakashi greatly improved his use of this jutsu in particular after he lost his Sharingan, now being able to create walls large enough to surround an entire small village,
Damn.
upkeep said wall and repair its damages from cannon fire for over a day, and also change its nature to quartz to negate the use of lightning techniques. Next up is Lightning Style Lightning Beast Tracking Fang,
Damn,
which is where
what a
Kakashi
name.
sparks up
Some
a
of the names are
lightning
so
blade
sick.
before manipulating it into the shape of a dog that he launches at his opponent with great speed and unpredictability.
So, am I missing something with Kakashi? Like, why is it always, like, dogs with him? Like, is that a known thing as to, like, why everything is dogs with him? Or is it just a thing?
Making it
I
hard
mean, it's
to
cool.
avoid and causing great damage.
But is there an
upon a
explanation
successful
for
strike.
that?
The lightning dog remains attached to his hand the entire time, allowing Kakashi to continually manipulate its course with his chakra. Next up is Lightning Style Shadow Clone Jutsu, which is the same concept as a normal
Just-
shadow
it's
clone
lightning.
and is really no different at first glance, except this time the user also infuses it with lightning chakra, so that when it is defeated, it will
Pew.
revert back to its lightning form and electrocute the individual who struck it. Additionally, the chakra used to create it does not return to the user like a normal shadow clone. Next up is Lightning Cable, which is where Kakashi and one of his shadow clones both perform a lightning
So
blade
sick.
on opposite hands, before connecting them with a cable of lightning in between the two, which they can use to slice a target in
That looks
half
so
or
cool.
use as a restraint against much more durable targets. Next up is the Susanoo,
Yo.
which is the strongest technique achievable with two Mangekyo Sharingan eyes. Kakashi was only able to utilize the Susanoo once Obito briefly lent both his Mangekyo Sharingan eyes to Kakashi before Obito passed on. The Susanoo itself is basically a gigantic humanoid avatar of chakra
Yeah,
that
but what
manifests
Susanoo
on top
can
of
do, it can
and
just-
around the user.
It's the shurikens that it throws that can do the whole cowboy thing and everything else. It's just like, oh my freaking god.
Acting as the ultimate defense, but also the ultimate offense, as it takes an incredible amount of power to even damage the Susanoo at all. And in its final form, the Susanoo is usually powerful enough to level entire mountains, for instance, compared in power to that of the tailed beasts. Using the Susanoo requires an immense deal of chakra, and Sasuke described using it as being unbearably painful, as if each cell in his body was on fire simultaneously.
It burns.
Generally speaking, the Susanoo comes in stages as the user gets more privy to using it, such as only materializing a skeletal structure. But Kakashi was able to completely manifest the final
perfect,
stage
yeah.
right off the bat, and never used any of the other stages, so we're just going to focus on the final one. Kakashi's Susanoo manifests as a light blue armored Tengu with wings, wielding a katana. And additionally, Kakashi was able to use Kamui in conjunction with the Susanoo itself, further increasing its already ultimate
amazing.
defense by preventing it from even being damaged. Next up is Kamui Shuriken. This jutsu was used in direct correlation with Kakashi's Susanoo, as his Susanoo created various shuriken which were shaped like Obito's Mangekyo pattern, before imbuing them with Kamui and throwing them at a target.
So
Once the Kamui shuriken hit their mark, that target was directly warped to the Kamui dimension. And last but not least, the final jutsu we've seen Kakashi use was Kamui Lightning Blade, which is where Kakashi creates a normal lightning blade before imbuing it with Kamui, making it so anything he strikes with the Kamui lightning blade is not only struck with a lightning blade attack and therefore causes damage, but is also immediately transported to the Kamui dimension.
Bye-bye.
But there you have it, everybody. Every jutsu Kakashi has ever used... Excuse me?
What's this boss?
What do you mean that's not every jutsu? Oh god, fuck! So when I originally came up with this idea, I was like, there's no way Kakashi actually knew 1000 jutsu. From what I remember, this guy only used like, what, 25 at most?
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna go reread the entire manga and take notes of every jutsu he uses. So that's exactly what I did.
Okay.
Now here I come to find that the Naruto wiki has a convenient little list of every jutsu Kakashi has ever used, kind of defeating the entire purpose of my idea. But from that list, there are clearly other jutsu that Kakashi has only used in the anime and novels.
Right.
So I'm already in too deep. We might as well mention those two. But for the record, every jutsu I previously mentioned is the definitive number of jutsu Kakashi used throughout
In the
the
manga.
entire run of the Naruto manga,
Right.
coming up with a total of 29 jutsu.
Alright,
and if we
yes.
remove chakra feet, since it's just a meme, it's not actually a jutsu.
28.
I was actually just
That's nowhere
3
near
off my
1,000, is
original
it?
guess, having a total of 28. Now let's see just how much that number increases with the anime-only jutsu
It can't
and
be that much.
jutsu-only
Can't
feature
be
in the
that much.
novels. First up with those, we have Earth-style Mud Wave Jutsu, which is where the user places their palm on the surface beneath them and feeds it with chakra, making it so the surface begins to move like waves. Secondly, we have Earth-style Multi-Mud Wall, which is basically the same thing
Yeah.
as the normal Mud
But
Wall
more.
Jutsu, except this time instead of creating one wall, you create multiple. Like we mentioned earlier, this technique was also greatly improved by Kakashi within the novel Kakashi Retsuden. The third is Eye Mind Reading, which is a technique that allows the user to read their target's mind. Kakashi never actually used this jutsu, but it was heavily implied that
That
he
he
already
could.
knew how,
Right,
so I'm gonna
okay.
count it anyways.
Okay.
Next up, we have Fire Style Fireball Jutsu, which is basically where the user transforms chakra into fire within their body before blowing it out of their mouth in a giant fireball.
Interesting
The more-
point to make though, with Kakashi using that, is why doesn't his mask get burnt when he blows it out of his mouth? Just something that just popped into my head then.
Chakra, the more deadly this fireball can become. Next up is Fire Style Water Mist.
What?
This jutsu was used by Kakashi to manipulate fire chakra into a bird, which flew into a nearby body of water, instantly evaporating said water into mist.
Oh.
Next up is
Okay.
a forbidden jutsu, that being the Front Lotus. It should first be noted that Kakashi is actually able to open the 8 inner gates. It's not known how many gates he's able to open, but at the very least we saw that he was able to open the first one during his mountain climbing training. It was insinuated within the manga,
Right.
but directly stated in the anime. Then, up against Kakuzu, Kakashi used the Front Lotus against him, which requires one gate to open to even be used.
Right, okay.
The technique itself is demonstrated by the user kicking their opponent high into the air, and following their path behind them mid-air with the Shadow of the Dancing Leaf technique, before grabbing them and spinning their body toward the ground head first at great speed,
Damn.
pile driving their
Bonk.
head into the ground, but jumping off themselves right before impact. While Kakashi's use of this technique is anime only, this is one that you could still argue he probably knows canonically, since he is able to open the first gate.
Yeah, the
at
gate
very
anyway, yeah,
least.
yeah.
Next up is Ninja Art Hidden Mist Jutsu, which is where the user utilizes nearby water sources to create mist from their own chakra. The mist created from this jutsu is notably very thick, and depending on how much chakra is used to maintain it, the thickness can be decided by the user. This technique was noted to cancel out the Sharingan's visual prowess completely. However, when Kakashi used this technique against Itachi within the anime, Itachi claimed that the mist didn't stop his Sharingan,
'Cause he's just
contradicting the
superior.
earlier statement within the manga. But honestly,
Nah, it's because it's Itachi. He's just so freaking cool.
Itachi was probably just gaslighting Kakashi anyway, considering he was pretty much blind at that point already. Next up is Lightning Style Purple Lightning,
But
which
this
is
is
an
in
original jutsu
Boruto.
that Kakashi developed to replace Lightning Blade, since he can no longer use that jutsu effectively after the loss of his Sharingan. The jutsu itself is basically Kakashi using lightning chakra to form a purple lightning bolt that he can shoot at his opponents from a distance, although he can use this similarly to Lightning Blade with direct contact as well. This technique was first shown in the original novel Kakashi Hiden, but has since been demonstrated within the Boruto manga and anime. Since this video isn't really covering Boruto and instead was intended specifically for Naruto Shippuden, I'm including it in this little filler section of Jutsu, but if you want to consider this one completely canon, it technically is. And finally, we have movie-only techniques, which are also non-canon. The first of which is ground-splitting jutsu, featured in Naruto the movie, Guardians of the Crescent Moon Kingdom.
I think I've only ever watched these once, these movies. Like, they're
causing it to
fun,
break
but
apart and
not amazing.
split the nearby designated area completely, which is basically the equivalent of one punch from Sakura. The second of which was Water-style Water Beast, featured in Naruto the movie, Guardians of the Crescent Moon Kingdom once again, which is where the user creates a giant wolf-like beast out of water that is capable of shooting water streams and swiping people with great force.
Pee everywhere.
Kakashi in particular created his out of yellow water and combined it with his Sharingan to track enemies. And finally, we have Ice-style White Whale
Oh, that's
Jutsu,
from the first one, isn't
which
it?
is from Naruto the movie, Ninja Clash in the Land of Snow.
Snow.
Which
Got
is
the
where the
poster
user
up there
utilizes
on the wall.
existing ice to create a giant whale with a horn out of ice to attack their target. The problem with Kakashi being able to use this jutsu would be the fact that Ice Release is a Kekkei Genkai, and since Kakashi isn't an Ice Release user, and the Sharingan
Shouldn't be able
cannot
to
copy
do
Kekkei Genkai,
that.
Kakashi has no business being able to use this technique. With all of
It's
those
a
filler
movie.
jutsu, we've now added an extra 11 jutsu for a grand total of 39, or
So
an
nowhere
even
near
40
1,000,
if you want to
man.
include
Wow.
chakra feet. You could give or take about 5 additional jutsu for parent jutsu that some of these more advanced techniques are derived from.
Yeah.
But even if you're really stretching it with various taijutsu, it'll only end up being about 50 jutsu in total that Kakashi has ever
That's
demonstrated.
mad. That's so funny.
in conclusion, it seems pretty unlikely that Kakashi of the Sharingan ever copied 1000 jutsu even during his heyday. In fact, it's far more likely that number isn't even 100. So, sadly, Kakashi is a fraud that doesn't completely live up to the reputation he developed for
How
himself.
dare he.
But that said, he's still one of the most skilled ninja present throughout the entire series. And even if this video is kind of a joke, his feats are still very impressive.
Oh, yeah.
But, there you have it everybody, every
But.
jutsu Kakashi has ever used. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and maybe learned something new or refreshed your memory on something you might have forgot. If you did, make sure to drop a like. While you're at it, be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss the next Naruto related video. Now that I've reread the series, you could say I have a few new ideas coming up, so more
Cool.
Naruto related content will be coming in the
Yay.
future. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at 2SpookyTube to keep up with the channel, follow me on Twitch at 2Spookster to catch some streams, and all other social media will be in the description below. Also wanted to give a big thanks to Bleach Shippu 5678 for editing this video.
Oh,
He
cool.
always does
Nice
a
shout out.
fantastic job, so please be sure to show him some love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon with the next video.
Need a day to waste away.
Very cool. Yeah, it's quite funny that like it's nowhere near 100. But that was still good anyway. And that was very well edited together. It was very funny as well as it being quite informative. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that. And I look forward to 2Spooky doing more Naruto videos. That'd be cool. And yeah, make sure you check out my Etsy shop. Links in the description for t-shirts and hoodies that I've designed. I'll be adding more designs very soon. And thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask for channels. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys very much for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys get that? What do you guys get this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.